Hello, and a very good afternoon, and welcome to Men's Radio. And I do believe we are live. I'm getting an odd thing on my screen here, so I do want to make sure that we are indeed actually live. Let's bring in one of our guests so I can see waiting. Lovely Demaza brought you in. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Neil, but like you, I've got a strange screen in front of me.
I've absolutely no idea what to do about this strange screen, unfortunately, but I do know that Russ is in the wings, and he is waiting to come in.
And you know what, darling? I've got less idea than probably anybody else what you can do with a screen like this. It's quite colourful, though.
Well, it is. It's advertising comedy John Ryan at the moment. I don't know why. Russ Kane, he is al fresco. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello. I have nothing in front of me except me, so I can't see anybody else. How bizarre is that? So the settings all peculiar.
Just to explain what's going on, we have Russ had a bit of a computer fail. I'm on a different location. I'm actually in a pub in Hayling Island in the south of England, and Bill, and shout out to Bill and everyone from the U-Tree pub just for letting me do this, sitting at a table quietly in the corner. And we've got a very important guest today. I would like to work out if we can get this screen changed somehow, because it doesn't really fit.
What you need to do,
Bill, how are you? Thank you very much. So it doesn't really fit.
Neil, can you hear me?
I can hear you pretty well, just about, yes.
Okay. Just about, or can you hear me? Because otherwise I'll bail. So if you can't hear me properly, I'll bail.
It's kind of ish.
Sorry?
It's kind of ish. The sound quality is not that good, Russ, to be honest with you. Karen, can I just check you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
That is lovely. It is loud and clear. Brilliant. Russ has bailed because, I'm very sorry about this screen. I don't know why we've got this screen, but what we will do when we get this on YouTube, we'll change the screen and we'll just dub the audio over it. So it's a proper screen which respects what we're doing today. So it's all a bit kind of thrown together randomly today, but in the best of ways. Emma, hello to you. Paul, hello to you. RVB, our clockmaker, hello to you. Here's what we're doing today. Today on Men's Radio, it's a really important subject, and when we had Karen on about a week ago, she was talking about the topic of narcissistic abuse in relationships. And I seem to be hearing a lot about this recently. It seems to be coming up more and more. People I meet, they've come out of a relationship. Oh, I was there for how many years? It was narcissistic. It was controlling. It can work both ways. Generally, people would assume it's men to women, but it can work the other way as well, much like domestic violence in that way, I would say. It's not just one way. But because it's an important subject, and because I think the wonderful thing about media is everything's so quick and fast and you can be updated in 2 minutes. But a subject like this needs more than a 2-minute soundbite. And that's why we wanted to get Karen back on. So rather than jumping in and out, asking questions and sort of 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, when she clearly has so much to say and so much experience and indeed so much to give and support other people, what we thought we'd do is slightly change the format today and do more of a kind of a teaching seminar, if you like. So, Karen, I'm going to invite you to the stage, as it were, and I'm just going to be quiet for the next 25 minutes. If you have questions, please stick them in the chat, and we will go through them at the end of her presentation. The only point where I'm going to interrupt, Karen, is if it gets a bit jargony, and I'll just say, "Oh, could you explain that? Could you explain that?" Because every industry, including presumably the industry of narcissism, if I can coin that, has its jargon. Okay, is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So, and Leslie, we'll have a lovely chat with you at the end as well. And I think you wanted to discuss some plays you've seen as well. It's lovely to see
and interestingly, the play that I saw, Neil, the play that I saw relates to abuse in a relationship. So it fits very well. Nice dovetailing.
Oh, good.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I do like a bit of dovetailing. That is fantastic. So, live from the U-Tree, Hayling Island, will you please welcome to the podium with a really important subject, and she's going to give us a little, or quite a large teaching seminar for about the next 20-25 minutes. Karen Courtney.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to speak a bit more in depth about the narcissist, who they are, what they do, the cycle of the relationship, if you are involved with a narcissist, how does it pan out? And first of all, narcissists are totally self-absorbed and pathologically selfish creatures, and they offset their true nature by being really charming and welcoming, and to get to what they want and need. And the main characteristics of a narcissist are that they're self-centered, they're arrogant, they have a lack of empathy, they have an excessive need for validation and admiration, they can be manipulative, they exploit others, they feel entitled, they have a grandiose sense of superiority, envious of others, they're definitely unable to take criticism, and also they have these fantasies of power and brilliance. So they're very hard to spot. And to begin with, you might meet a person who is really charming, they appear attractive and charismatic, and you think, what lovely people. But this is just a hook to actually get you to believe that they're really nice, attractive people. When in actual fact, they are the complete opposite, because they see people as objects. They see people as something that they can manipulate and which can feed them. You see, they don't really have a character of themselves. They are empty vessels. And so when you meet them, they are very attracted to you because you are showing everything that they don't have. And they want it from you. So when you first meet a narcissist, if you're thinking about the relationship side, you meet this person and you start to become involved with them, they seem to be everything that you've always wanted in either a man or a woman or whatever gender you are. They're everything you could sort of ever hope for. They give you gifts. They might take you for meals and on extravagant experiences. They put you on a pedestal. They give you attention, admiration, loads of compliments and flattery. They share stories. They can even try and get sympathy from you. So they might have a sort of hard luck story that you start to feel sorry for them. They make loads of promises. So that's called future faking. They're making loads of promises about the future. But straight away, they're texting you. They're contacting you all the time. And you think, how sweet, how lovely. It is very intense. All of a sudden, they're in your face. And sometimes, before you even know it and even realize it, they can actually be moving in with you as well. And you think to yourself, how did that happen? But you think so much of them. You think you put them on a pedestal as well, because you think, wow, I've never met a person like this. That they'll say things to you like, you're my soulmate, etc. Some of the terminology, the language, this is called the idealized point. That's the start of the relationship. They might say things like, I always dreamt of someone as perfect as you. You are the best thing that's ever happened to me. Or I knew straight away that we were soulmates. Or your ex was really crazy to let you go. You're amazing. I will never leave you. Or no one has ever been this good to me. So at this point, you're really getting sucked into this relationship. You're in love. You're in love with this person who has appeared, and you just cannot believe your luck. In actual fact, this person is a total fake. They are a con. This is not who they are at all. But they're very cleverly at this point getting to know all about you. They're asking you lots of questions. They're working out what makes you tick. They're trying to find out everything about you so that they can use this later on when they need to. And believe me, they will use it. So you might find that they're actually twinning you. In other words, they're copying you. So if you say, for instance, you like, I don't know, Fleetwood Mac or Joe Bloggs, they will turn around and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. They're my favorite artist too. Or if you say you like a particular program, oh my goodness, I watch that all the time. So they're mirroring you to make you feel as if you are their soulmate and they are right for you. So you're going through this incredible part of the relationship where you're really happy, you're on cloud 9, and then all of a sudden the next phase of the relationship will begin. Now, when it does begin will depend on how much of a feed you are actually giving the narcissist. So if you're in a relationship, this love bombing phase can actually be very short, or if you start to have children with a narcissist, it can last quite a long time and a number of years, because if you're giving them children, if you're in business with them and you're giving them a feed, they will find you very useful. And so this love bombing stage can be quite spread out. However,
Karen, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Karen, can I interrupt you a minute? I'm so sorry. Neil, can you let Russ into the show, please? He's not in the show. Sorry, Karen, to interrupt you. Carry on. I'll shut up now.
Okay. So what starts to happen is that there are a few incidents that start to take place. In other words, you might start to disagree with them. You set some sort of boundary because of their actions, or the narcissist might suddenly start to get bored with you. You start to see through their games. They feel that you might be slipping away, and they might feel that they need to hook you in, or even something as simple as things are too peaceful, because narcissists need drama to basically extract and get their supply, or you trigger a narcissistic injury. So what will start to happen is the narcissistic injury is something that happens where there's a deep emotional wound that's triggered in the narcissist because you've said something that they don't like. And normally the narcissistic injury will be immediate. It will be an immediate reaction, and they could suddenly, out of the blue, which you've never seen this sort of behavior before, they suddenly project all their pain and shame back onto the person who stood in front of them. And the problem is with this, you'll probably have no idea what these triggers are. It's like you're constantly walking on eggshells or walking blindly in a known territory with landmines all around you. You've just got no idea what you've done. All you know is suddenly, all of a sudden, you hit a landmine and pow, there's a huge explosion. So what sort of things do they start to do? Well, they might just start criticizing you, or if you try to discuss with them what has actually gone wrong, they'll start to suddenly twist the conversation round to suddenly blame you. They won't take any responsibility whatsoever for their actions. So you might want to have a talk to them about it. You know exactly what you're going to talk to them about, but all of a sudden they'll twist the conversation very cleverly, because they're very good at rationalizing things and totally changing the whole conversation to make you feel as if you're the one that's doing something wrong. And normally at the end of this type of conversation with you, you're left at the end, effectively your head all stuck up, you're like a rabbit looking at the headlights, so what on earth happened? But all of a sudden the conversation is twisted around and you are the one that's in the wrong. And for some reason, you are ending up apologizing to them. I mean, how on earth did that happen? You knew exactly that they'd done something wrong to you, yet you are the person that ended up saying sorry. They're very crafty, very clever, very manipulative. At this stage as well, they'll also start to gaslight you. So if you do want to discuss with them something that they've done that's upset you, they'll suddenly turn around and say, I didn't say that. That's not right. That didn't happen. And you start to think,
can we have more Karen, can we have more examples of what they call gaslighting, please? Because it's a very overused phrase.
Yeah, I mean, gaslighting, it's probably the most well-known and discussed strategy employed by narcissists. Um, it's a form of psychological abuse in which the perpetrator denies the victim's thoughts, needs, opinions, and emotions. So basically, in a gaslighting situation, you might be discussing going to do something nice. It might be, let's go to the pub and do X, Y, and Z. And you say, oh, okay, we'll do that. You go out and get yourself ready. And then you're ready to go. You say to the narcissist, okay, I'm ready. And the narcissist will say, what are you talking about? And you say, well, you said we were going to go out to the Rose and Crown pub. And they'll say, no, I didn't. I never ever said that. And you think to yourself, yes, you did. And they'll say, I absolutely didn't say that.
Karen, can you hear me all right? Because I can't
Yep.
see anything here. I don't know what the
Yep.
hell's going on. I've given up. I'll give you the worst example of commercial gaslighting that
Yep.
I ever had. You will remember the song Baker Street by whatever he was.
Yes, I
Jerry
do.
Rafferty. You remember that? And you remember everyone
Yep.
goes on and on about the saxophone in that. The saxophone was played by a man called Ralph Ravenscroft. And out of the blue, years and years and years ago, we get a call. I get a call from my then commercial writing agent to go in and meet Ralph Ravenscroft. He's starting a new studio. I go in with my then agent, who I'm still very close with, and a graphic designer. We have a 2-hour plus meeting about the brochures and everything that he requires. We work our socks off for a couple of weeks. We go back to present everything, and he says, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And we said, I'm sorry, what? What are you doing here? What do you mean? What brochure? And we all looked at each other thinking that we'd gone raving mad. I know this isn't a personal thing. And of course, the whole thing was a scam, and they closed this studio, catching people for an absolute fortune. But it was, when it happens to you, you doubt yourself.
You do.
And I remember standing in the street with my then agent, Candy, and an excellent graphic designer going, did the three of us imagine a 2-hour meeting? It's horrendous. Horrendous.
Yeah,
when
I mean,
it happens.
it's for when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it's very frightening, actually, because you really do think like you are losing your mind, and you really, really, really do start to doubt yourself, because you know what they've said to you, you know you've heard it, and then they are so convincing. You really do think you're losing your mind, because they are the most convincing con artists out there. So after a while, this pattern starts happening, with the gaslighting, and it can happen about the most simple things, like they've told you that they love fish and chips. So you go make them fish and chips, and they'll say, I hate fish and chips. And you say, you told me you like fish and chips. Just even at that simplified level, this is what gaslighting is all about. And it's a really, really difficult stage for the victim to go through, because at this point, it's normally the stage where they're being totally devalued by the narcissist. Because what has happened is the narcissist has sucked you in. You've got that incredible love story at the beginning, and now they're starting to devalue you. You basically, you start to have two different thoughts. Because of the devaluation, you start to go through something called cognitive dissonance, where the mind has two opposing beliefs at the same time. And it's a psychological state that keeps you clinging to who you think the narcissist is rather than who they truly are. An example of cognitive dissonance is, on the one hand, we can recognize on some level that we're being abused and mistreated, yet we justify or lie to reason with ourselves as to why the behavior is happening. For instance, you could say about the narcissist's behavior, or they've just had a bad day, or it's because of their trauma, or everyone has problems, or I can't leave them, we're meant to be together. And again, this is part of the devaluation stage. It's incredibly manipulative. So forms of devaluation: put downs, insults, criticism, gaslighting, rejection, narcissistic rage, withdrawing of affection, emotional and physical intimacy. So for instance, if you say something they're not happy with, or you're starting to stand up, for yourself, because you're starting to say, well, hang on a minute, this isn't right, or I don't like this behavior from you, then basically they can ghost you, they can withdraw their affection, they might go into mood, and for days on end they'll sort of chastise you, and it's again a horrible thing.
Karen,
Yep.
let me jump in here. I'm at a huge disadvantage because I can see absolutely nothing on this screen. I don't know what's going on. I apologize to all our listeners and viewers all over the world. It's amazing what happens when I take my foot off the gas. Now, as much as I hate to bring her up, Amber Heard, why were all those conversations recorded? And if you're in one of these relationships, do you suggest recording everything?
Yes, in actual fact, one thing I say to all the guys and girls that I look after, and all genders, everybody, is that evidence is absolutely vital. And the reason it's so vital is because a lot of narcissistic abuse might not necessarily be physical abuse. It might be psychological, emotional. So you don't actually have any marks on you physically. So how do you prove this emotionally? So one of the things we do and say is, if you do record, you can only use it for yourself to make notes, because you're not allowed to record people in the UK without their...
Is that just a UK law? Because obviously it doesn't apply in America.
It doesn't apply in America. Yes, it is in the UK. You're not allowed to record anybody without their permission. So what you can do, though, is record the conversation and then notate, make a notation of what is actually being said, almost word for word, and that is acceptable. So basically, we tell people to gather all the information, evidence you can.
Stop. Why is it okay to, in a court, to report written evidence, but not something which is actually recorded? Because why would that? It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that is just the law, basically, Russ.
Okay.
You can't.
Well, as we know, the law is an ass.
Yeah. So basically, you can write a diary as well, and if you do this, really extensive notes with dates and times, then this can be used as evidence in a court. So in a country where you can record each other, then that is what happens. You record the behavior of the other person, and it can be used as evidence. Unfortunately, you can't do this in the UK. So notations, email trails, as much evidence as you can, witnesses, all of this is really important.
But with all of this, Karen, what are you going to achieve? What I mean is, if you're suing someone for 50 million, they counter sue for 100 million, all this crap. I get it. It's money. If you're in one of these relationships and you record all of this, what is the end result?
Well, I mean, basically, you are trying to prove that you are a victim of narcissistic abuse, and that you're a victim of abuse.
I get that, but how does that... I totally understand that, but what does that do to propel you forwards? I mean, if you want a divorce, just get a divorce, right?
Yeah, if you want a divorce, just get a divorce. But if you want a divorce from a narcissist, then it's a whole different kettle of fish. If you want a divorce with a narcissist, it's one of the most terrible things to go through. So you need this extra evidence when it comes to things like the children, or trying to keep the home. You've got to be able to prove that you might be a victim of financial abuse. So all these things that you're getting, writing about, gathering evidence for, it's not just a straightforward divorce. It's far more complex and complicated. And a judge might not be an expert on narcissistic abuse. They might not be an expert on abuse.
And also because, of course, when the narcissist, male or female, gets into the court, they are utterly believable.
Yeah, this is a huge, huge, ginormous problem with going into a court situation where you do not have experts sitting in the courtroom. This is happening a lot in UK courts, but there is a movement, and there are movements now with judges going on courses to learn about abuse. But it is still a major problem because narcissists can fool everybody because of their charismatic behavior. So getting this evidence, therefore, Russ,
is crucial.
Is
absolutely
crucial. It's critical and crucial.
My guess is, and it's only a guess, Karen, and I don't know if Leslie and Neil agree, is that, and it's a slight stereotypical example, but you get into, let's say it's a man who's the narcissist and the woman who isn't, in this instant, just for example, they get into court. By this time, the woman's a wreck. And the guy, of course, is in his element because, hey, it's showbiz. He's in court. It's all about him. And so he can shine. And this poor woman, who God knows what's happened to her over a number of years, probably is an incoherent wreck. I can really see how this will go wrong.
It happens to men as well, because what happens is an abuser can use the court system as a form of abuse. And by that, I mean, every time you go to court, it's one of the most stressful things you can go through. It can cost a lot of money. And so, if you don't have a lot of money, you can find that you're being financially abused to try and defend yourself, to try and keep custody of the kids. And a lot of abusers use the court system and just keep taking the victim back to court again and again and again. I have some people in my two main groups who have been taken to court in any 1 year about 7 or 8 times on different things. And so can you imagine? I know victims who have had to mortgage their homes and spend up to £100,000 with a narcissist just to keep custody of their kids. I mean, it is a horrible thing. So therefore, one of the things that we drum into people right from the word go who come into our groups is get the evidence. Right about everything.
Karen, hold your horses a second. I have to do a really dull piece of housekeeping, and I've got to address this. Hang on a sec. I've got to address this to Neil because the settings are wrong. I'm sorry to do this live, but there's no other way around this because, as you know, I'm working at a complete disadvantage at the moment. Neil, if you look at the right-hand side of the screen, you will see the name Banners, Banners. Click on that, get rid of John Ryan's banners and put up any other banner you like. That's the way to deal with that. I can't answer your question otherwise because I'll lose the picture. Right, Karen, back to you.
Okay.
Hang on, well, got a question.
Yeah.
If you're in the middle of a narcissistic relationship and you think that your life is going to hell in a handcart, what are the best coping mechanisms you could give to our listeners?
Okay, well, I'm jumping right to the end of the cycle now. So basically, the first one is if you don't have any children with them, is straight away no contact. So you block them on everything, social media. You do everything through a third party. So maybe you're unfortunately, it's going to cost a lot if you do it this way through your solicitor. Or you won't have any verbal contact with them and you do everything through email. And if they break your boundary, especially if you have no children, and you say to them, I don't want you to email me, we'll do everything through the solicitor, and they're not listening to you and they're almost stalking you, etc., then if you're a victim of this type of abuse, you can get free of charge, if you're a victim of abuse, a non-molestation order. And if they're in the house with you and they're stalking and abusing you as well, you can also get an occupation order. Again, I think this is free of charge if you're a victim of abuse, so that they have to move out. If you've got children, it is a lot more complex, because obviously you have, especially if they're young, you have to have communication for the children. So there are a number of things that you can do. You can try and get to court as quickly as possible, so that the court order is basically set out so that you have to use centres where you exchange the children. There are a number of apps that you can use where the parents can't contact each other directly, but use a third-party app to leave messages on. Regarding pickups of children, you can get relatives like grandparents or friends to drop the children off or pick them up. I've even known some people who've gone to their local police station and have said, for the next week, can I please, use the police station as the pick up and drop off for my children? When
are they amenable to that?
Some of them are, yes, some of them are. But child contact centres are the way to go if it's a court-directed order. Some of the apps that I've mentioned, one of the most well-known one is one that's called Our Family Wizard. But there are others like Two Houses, App Close, Talking Parents, and all of these are designed for exactly this reason. The problem is, when you're co-parenting with a narcissist, you have to be so careful, because they will use and try and turn everything against you. So it is very difficult. So ways to talk to a narcissist, there is something called grey rock. Now, grey rock is a form of language that you use with a narcissist that shows no emotion. You keep your voice monotone. You do not bite to any of their maybe abusive or language to try and sort of push your buttons. You keep totally monotone, so that eventually, because you're not biting, they will get bored of it. So you have to keep, if you have to have contact with them, look up the grey rock technique and use this technique when speaking, if you have to speak with a narcissist. But wherever possible, block a narcissist, have low contact if you have children, and set those communicative boundaries. So right from the word go, if there's no children, you say you can only contact me through my solicitor, do not contact me. And if you do have children, use apps, use friends, relatives, if necessary, to pick up the children, and go grey rock.
But you see, that sounds great. I get that, but trying to do that if you're not trained and you're in a highly emotional situation is very difficult.
It is very difficult.
Very difficult.
There are other things you need to do at this stage for yourself. The other things that you need to do, you basically cut them out of their life. You start to process your own pain. So you start journaling. You start to join self-help groups. You start to read and educate everything you can grab about narcissistic abuse, because the more you read about narcissistic abuse, the more you educate yourself, the more you have an understanding. And the more you have an understanding and educate yourself, the stronger you become as a person. It's an unconscious thing that happens. You don't go out of your way to be stronger, but the more you mix with people in self-help groups and people are talking about their experience, the more you start to understand and realize, you know what, guys, this was not me. This was not about me. This was never about me. This was about a narcissist. This was about a B cluster personality who was like this. This is very important, because it's that point, it's a pivotal point when you realize that this was not about you. It was not your fault. This was everything to do about them. Once you get to this point, you're starting to cross over that middle line. And once you start to cross over that middle line by reading, by having self-help groups, by looking after your health, even things like taking up new hobbies, reconnecting with your loved ones, because during a narcissistic relationship, a narcissist will isolate you from your loved ones and your friends and your family. So even doing simple things like reconnecting with your loved ones, taking up a hobby, consolidating your self-esteem with eating and sleeping and exercise, setting healthy boundaries, not just for the narcissist, but for anybody, prioritizing yourself, working out what is good for you, being more assertive, and basically communicating your limits with other people.
Karen, this is all extremely positive stuff. Let's just get the worst case scenario. You're stuck in a flat, let's say, not even a nice house, just stuck in a flat with a narcissist. You can't get rid of them. What do you do? What are the best things to do? Because you're faced with it, and especially in lockdown, where this was absolutely exacerbated, and a lot of working from home, or hybrid working as they now call it. What do you do?
Yeah, huge percentage of men and women who are victims are in this situation think, what on earth can I do? Well, one of the first things that you can do is actually look online or on your phone and look for a local domestic abuse organization in your area. See if there's one physically there, but if there's not, go online. And of course, the most well-known one is Women's Aid, which is not particularly great for guys, but there are actual, and I did have a list which I will give to Russ at the end. There's a number of national organisations for men who are also victims of abuse, and obviously narcissistic abuse. So my first thing would say, I would signpost the person to an external agency or organisation so that they can call them straight away, and especially a local one, because they can get their things up and leave and go to somewhere that's safe. And if there isn't anything like that, if they can up and leave and go to a friend or anybody, but if the narcissist is being abusive, especially in front of the children, they need to get out there and then and as quickly as possible. The most dangerous part of leaving of the abuse cycle is when you pull away from the person, and if you say to them that you want this relationship to end, and even if you leave them, the next stage is the most critical for that person, because that is when most abuse, horrific abuse, takes place. So being in a safe haven is really important. Joining at that point as well, a lot of the men and women in my groups, they're at this stage, they don't know what to do. They will join the group. In the women's group, I've had about 10,000 women go through the group. At any one time, there's 6,000 women using the group. But wow, about 4,000 women have actually, this is the women's group, have gone through the group, come out the other side, and have managed to survive and go on with their lives. In the men's group, we have 500 guys, and a lot of the men have turned around and said, I don't know what I would have done without this group. I thought I was going mad. I thought, was I the abuser? Was I the narcissist? Because it can be very confusing for someone, because when a narcissist is abusive to you, you can react as well. You can react. It is a form of defense. And this is called reactive abuse. And if you don't know what it is, you will start to question yourself. Am I the abuser? I've just done and said that. But no, this is called reactive abuse. And so this is a normal scenario that will happen when you are being a victim of abuse. You will start to defend yourself. You will start to react. And so there's a difference between the two. Also, another very common question is, am I the abuser? Am I the narcissist? Well, the answer to that is, if you're asking yourself that question, you are not, because guess what? A narcissist never self-evaluates. A narcissist never turns around and says, you know, am I being abusive? Am I the abuser? Because according to the narcissist, they will take no responsibility for their actions. They're perfect. So you are the one that's wrong. You're the one that's,
yeah, always.
I mean, basically.
What percentage of these situations turn physically violent?
I would say about 7 to 10% of a narcissistic relationship can turn violent to begin with.
And is the flashpoint? I'm so sorry about today, everybody. It's
okay.
I'm absolutely flying blind. No, I wasn't actually apologising to you. I'm just absolutely flying blind here, so it's not quite as slick as we would like it. And I know Neil is absolutely doing his best under very trying circumstances. Is the flashpoint for physical violence when the narcissist realizes that it's starting to be game over?
Yes. I mean, when I said about 10% at the beginning, a narcissist gets worse and worse and worse with time. They don't get better. They can get worse and worse in the relationship. And the problem is, if you're getting the cycling effect, Russ, in other words, you try and leave and then they hoover you back in with future faking, that they won't ever do this again, that they're sorry, and you accept their apology and get that sucked back in, then straight away the narcissist sees that they can quite easily break your boundaries.
Well, they've won. They've completely won.
Well, but they will be good for a short amount of time, and then they would go back to the way they were and worse. So what you get with narcissistic abuse is you might get, say, 10% at the beginning, but the longer you stay, and some of the guys and girls in my groups, maybe they've gone through the 7th or 8th cycle of hoovering, and at the end, they can get more and more violent, physically abusive, and so the figures for physical abuse goes much higher.
It is that point, Karen. It is that point. And by the way, I've no idea if Neil's still there, if Leslie's still there. I can't see. All I can see is a tiny postage stamp of me. So please bear with. Okay. At that point, you would hope that their friends or relatives would say, "For the love of God, get out." You know, if somebody had gone back 7 times, I would have given up on them. I would have said, "Hey, you're obviously in my view, which you won't like, but it is just my view." I would have said, "You're obviously enjoying this shit.
Yeah,
you love the psycho. You're loving the psychodrama. Good luck. I'm out of here. You know, if you want to carry on with this, down to you, but don't bother to contact me."
Yeah, what people got to understand with all forms of abuse is that the victim gets trauma bonded. They get basically bonded to the wonderful that they want to get back to this wonderful beginning of the relationship. Narcissists are very clever, Russ. What they will do, and the reason people keep going back is it's not all bad. It's not all horrible. You can have 2 or 3 or 4 months in between in the cycling where they're wonderful and there's no drama, where everything is lovely, and then all of a sudden it will build up again, and before you know it, you're in another cycle. And so this period of them being really lovely and nice and back to how they were can get the person hooked in again. So basically there's seven phases of trauma bonding, Russ. There's the love bonding, there's the trust and dependency, there's criticism, manipulation, giving up control, losing yourself, and addiction to the cycle. So how do you break it? Well, it's as I said, how do you break it?
Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually was thinking when I was listening to all of that, how lucky we're not in America, although I will be there soon. How lucky we're not in America that that everybody doesn't have guns.
A gun. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Karen, could you do me a big favor?
Absolutely.
What are you seeing on your screen? Because I've no idea what everybody is
I'm seeing. Happy to help.
Is lovely Leslie there?
I don't think Neil or Leslie are actually here. I think it's just you and me, Russ. It says happytohelpyou.com, men's radio station.
That's completely the wrong banner. It's chaos today.
Never mind.
Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so it makes me feel really physically ill listening to this. I'll be absolutely honest with you, Karen. It makes my stomach knot up. It's just so revolting.
You know what, Russ? They say leaving a narcissistic relationship is harder, is so addictive. The trauma bonding stages are so addictive that actually giving up a narcissist who you feel you love is even more difficult than giving up something like heroin. That's the analogy of trying to give up a narcissistic person in your life.
Sorry, I can hear extraordinary. I don't know what's going on. There's conversations going on.
I can actually jump in here, and I hope you can all hear me. Again, apologies for the technical issues. We really
not your fault, Neil. You're doing everything that you can, and
I appreciate that. But we're really talking to our listeners. For them watching it, we're not being irreverent or disrespectful with the screen. We've literally got an issue where we're stuck on an old screen, which is a fantastic comedian, John Ryan, actually. But what we do,
but it's not his show. But we
put a proper screen to it, so the replay will be a little bit more respectful to the content. So it's certainly not our intention to be respectful about something like this. It's the level and the depth of this, Karen, and that's why we wanted to get you back on. You've got so much to share, and I guess people, when they've been in a situation like this, not only recovering from the psychological aspects, but they've got to rebuild their life from the get-go, because there could have been financial control, working out how to get employment, how to get housing, things they might have been sharing or dependent on someone with. It really is creating yourself anew from the very beginning, isn't it? So it's a hell of a process.
Let me give the two groups that people can join on Facebook for more help and support.
Please do.
The groups are called, and I'll go with the link as well, Surviving the Narcissistic Ex-Partner Closed Group for Men, and Surviving the Narcissistic Ex-Partner Group for Women. So it's the men's group is www.facebook.com/groups/overcoming narcissism for men, and the women's group is www.facebook.com/groups/narcissistic partners. And any of you can contact me on Facebook if you want a one-to-one. I do actually help people with one-to-one sessions if they've got specific challenges that they're going through with a narcissist. I do actually have one-to-one sessions with people as well.
And this is fantastic work that you're doing, Karen, and we thank you for it. And we'll put all those details in the show notes, because this will be on many platforms for people to watch and search for. So we give those show note details.
All right, Karen, as well, if men want to be more private, they can apply to my private group, which is the Espresso Bar.
Yep.
The Espresso Bar, that's on Facebook. You have to be, we look who you are. It is men only, and that is where, if they want to just vent, they can do so. So just go on Facebook to the Espresso Bar, and that is a men only, 45 years old plus.
Do you know, isn't it good that these resources are here? And isn't it good that we can talk openly about these things and just reach as many people as possible? Because it sounds like a living hell. I mean, I've had 5% of that experience. There's been a couple of experiences in my life where I've been experiencing things like that, but not the full version that you've described. And the fact that there's resources, and the thing that annoys me the most is the gaslighting aspect. It's the making you think that you're wrong, and then it challenges your mental health, and that's where I get really wound up about it, because
they project themselves onto you, Neil. The good thing is about Facebook groups now, though, can I just want to point this out, is that in both the groups now, Facebook have rolled out anonymous posting, and it will probably be in your group as well, Russ, but people can now post anonymously and group members can actually support and help them. So that is one thing that Facebook have rolled out for support groups, which I think is really valuable. But Neil, yes.
So people can contact you, Karen, if they need some support. They can go to the group.
Yeah, and post anonymously. They join the group, then they can post anonymously. No doubt it will be the same for the espresso bar as well. But yes, Neil, I mean, some people have only had like 5% of this, but that was enough. That was enough.
But do you know what, guys? It's like, if you're in a shitty relationship, that's bad enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is. You come back from work and you think, oh, Christ, how am I going to get through this? It's horrible.
Yeah.
And that's if it's just a bad relationship that's fallen apart. But if one of the people is doing all of these horrendous mind games and trying to destroy the other person, that is a whole other level of ghastly horror. To me, it's awful.
It really is. Absolutely. And that's why I'm grateful that these resources are there and that there's platforms like this where we can all talk really openly about it. Karen, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'd love to have you on again. And as I say, we'll put all the links in the show notes, in the YouTube video with a better screen as well. So there will be a proper picture when this is watched back on YouTube, because I don't want to seem like we're being irreverent. Can we bring lovely Demeza in though? Because you saw a play that really fits in with this, and we do love to come to you for your play reviews and of what's going on stage and that, and it all dovetails nicely. So over to you, lovely lady, if we may.
Well, interestingly, I mean, I did put on a thing on the private chat of the group, because I went through a situation in a relationship which didn't last very long, thank God, with a narcissistic man. And it was only thanks to a couple of really good male friends that I realized, no, I wasn't going mad. And I hadn't said the things he was telling me I had said. Oh. But that's neither here nor there. I survived that. Interestingly, I'll just tell Russ.
Leslie, let me jump in.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in with this, and you'll be embarrassed, but I don't care. I've known you forever. If it happens to you, and you are one of the nicest people I know or have ever known, it really can happen to anybody. And it's so important to understand that. That's what
Absolutely.
I have to say on that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, darling. I'm embarrassed. Yeah, you're true. Right. I am one of the nicest people. You might be embarrassed, but it's true. You know.
But you are. You are genuinely, So you think, what the hell was his game?
Thank you.
What was his game? There you go.
And I did ask a couple of good male friends, and I said, look, I want to just pass this by you. And they said, get out of this now. However, that's not about the play. The play that I saw has now closed. However, it is going to be live screened at the cinema on the 21st of July via the National Theatre live screening website. And the play I saw is actually called Prima Facie. You, of course, Russell, will know what that means, having been a lawyer. At first glance, it means it's Latin. I got 12% for my last Latin exam, but I know what that means. Basically, this play starred Jodie Comer. Shut up now.
Okay.
Jodie Comer, most people from her role as Villanelle in Killing Eve. She also played a young woman in Channel 4, which was about a young woman in a care home during the COVID crisis, and how after a little while, she was the only person left standing looking after loads of people who were dying. Anyway, this young woman, Jodie Comer, is an actress par excellence. I have never seen a performance anything like it. It's a one-woman play. Seriously, one-woman play. She plays a lawyer who specializes in defending men accused of sexual assault until she herself is assaulted. It's the script. I have to say, the script is very heavy at times. Sometimes it's even cumbersome, but she delivers so well, absolutely brilliantly. So this uncompromising script, but she lifts it. She plays Tessa Ensler, who is a ruthlessly competitive, very witty young barrister who comes from state education, and she's got this very droll humour which enables her to survive all the challenges of law school at Cambridge. And she plays it brilliantly. The humour is laugh out loud funny, but later she finds herself completely on the other side of the witness stand and as a rape victim. And then we see a completely different character. I'm going to say that the play took me from masses of laughter to real pain and tears and introspection. The end is a bit like being lectured at, but she makes it, I think her performance makes it acceptable. The woman is in constant motion on the stage. Her energy never fails. She's just there the whole time, the hour, 40, 50 minutes that it lasted. What really links me to today's conversation is that the final messages of this play really highlight how our laws in this country actually fail to protect. I think we have to, this is not me being sexist, it's just fact. Men made our laws. The majority of people in the police force are men. The majority of people at the bar are men. The majority of judges are men. Women have historically, well, they've been sidelined. And when it comes to cases of rape and domestic abuse, that's really quite obvious. A woman has to prove she's telling the truth, even though she isn't the one on trial. And that's what happens to Jodie Comer in this play. The character, Tessa, has to try and prove that she is telling the truth in the witness box. And all I can say is when my niece, I took my 19-year-old niece with me, when we left, we couldn't actually talk about how we were feeling until quite some time later. We had to really process the whole thing. I mean, it was brilliant, but whoa, it made me stop and think. And that links so well to
never forget that they say, do you remember, you know the phrase, the rule of thumb?
Yeah.
You all know the phrase, the rule of thumb? Do you know what that means?
Yes.
What it means is, back in the day, if you beat your wife with a stick that was no thicker than your thumb, you were within the law.
Good God.
Oh my goodness.
That's why they phrased the rule of thumb. That's what it means. So I endorse everything that Leslie is saying.
It's been a powerful show today. Karen, thank you so much for being on, for coming back. Please keep in touch. We're very much here to support any work like yours in the world, and I'm sure I speak for us as well. We'll put all the details in the YouTube show notes, and perhaps we'll put all the details in the YouTube show notes, and perhaps come on again. Leslie, that tied in absolutely beautifully. Apologies once again for the dodgy screen. That's just technical stuff.
Don't apologise, Neil, you're doing your best.
And a quick thank you to Bill and everyone at the Yew Tree pub in Hayling Island. I'm sitting there watching people eat their dinner, and it looks delicious, I have to say.
So really, Neil, I never wanted to bring this up in public, but you're part of Operation Yew Tree.
Nothing to do with that.
Just checking.
Nothing to do with that particular
I'm
Operation
just checking.
Yew Tree.
No. I've known you many years. I'm just checking because, I'm very cautious who I associate with, obviously. So I didn't think so. It was Leslie putting me up to it. She made me do it. She made me, sir.
Oh, stop. I did nothing of the sort, Neil. You know that.
Hey, gang, changing the subject. I've been waiting months for a procedure on my eye. Months and months and months, right? Today, 9 o'clock, the phone goes, boom, cancelled.
Oh.
Why?
That's a bummer.
Doctor's ill. Really? Months I've been waiting for this.
Well,
damn. There we are. I'm fine.
Not a good week, Russ. Not a good week.
This week, the only thing I haven't done so far this week is drop dead from a cardiac arrest. Apart from that, it's going great.
As my late father would say, bite your tongue.
I know. My folks said the same thing. Gang, that's all we've got time for. Neil, you're a blooming hero for doing what you did. bless you. We love you. Leslie, you know we love you. Karen, you're fantastic. We will see you with a little bit of a surprise on Friday.